Hello, everyone. You know who it is. I'm here to give you my The Young Pope Season 1, Episode 1 review. So we begin this episode kind of with this with the strangeness. We see probably or at least thousands upon thousands of different ethnicity of babies, all scrunched up together, and we see the Pope emerge from this. And it was kind of weird. Then we see him wake up, and then we see him, brush his teeth, listening to, the radio, and then we see him make his way into the Vatican. We see the cardinals, bishops, nuns, security protection, all staring at him, and it seems as though he's very tense. He's very observing the room, like he's suspicious of everyone. He makes his way to a seat with two nuns on both sides of him, and we see a brief flashback of what I can assume of him as a younger child, and we see this naked woman who's clearly, legal. She's like 18, 21, probably even older than that. And we see him smiling at her, because obviously it's him as a child from the way I interpreted it. And then we flash back to the current and we see that he's deeply troubled by this. So I wonder what happened. So after this, we see him make his way. He's guided towards the balcony, and we see a shitload of people there from different nations, different countries, Brazil, Portugal, the United States, Britain, all this stuff. We see TV cameras, getting ready to film, all that stuff. And we see his trepidation, his sense of what it seems to be of uneasiness quickly turn to him smiling, like he's enjoying the limelight. So after that, we see him make his way to the balcony, and we see him say, we have forgotten you." Then we hear the people with just applaud, thunderous applause. And then after that, he said, "We also forgotten about the women and the children and love, you know, and that God is freedom." And then he goes on to say something that really shocks everyone. And I'm assuming people even saw this episode in the first place. He said, "We forgot to masturbate. We forgot to use the newest versions of contraceptives, that can allow for babies to be born through all kinds of science, regardless." He said, we forgot abortion. We forgot to celebrate gay marriage for people to marry whoever they want. We forgot about having sex, and not just for the purpose of having sex, just for procreation. We forgot to allow cardinals and bishops and members of this great establishment to marry, to love one another. And when that was said, that's when some cardinals literally fainted. Like they fainted or had a heart attack or something. And some of the cardinals were laughing. He said, "And most of all, we forgot about ourselves." So, and also he talked about and also we forgot about suicide and how there's nothing wrong about killing yourself if you hate your disgusting life. And for after that, he's immediately stopped, and I believe the character fuck, I'm sorry, you guys, for my bad language. I'm trying to cut down the swears. Violo, if I can pronounce, I think that's his name, says, "What are you doing? You're not the Pope. I'm the Pope, and you're no longer part of this establishment." And then once he says that, the Pope is like, "What?" He turns around and sees that everyone in Vatican Square are gone. And then he wakes up, sweating, literally in a pool of sweat. So after that, we have this discussion with the older gents, of the Vatican. And it seems as though they talk about Viola, and they don't trust him. He's scheming and whatnot, but it seems as though they're not really concerned because they control Viola. At least that's what they said. And they talk about how this Pope is going to be a puppet, but one of them isn't so sure about that. Well, two of them isn't so sure about that. They feel as though he might be more of a tougher nut to crack, you know what I'm saying, in order to fall in line with Viola and their wishes as well. And they mentioned someone who was supposed to be the Pope, who they wanted to be the Pope. I think his name was Sanska or something like that. And we have a little bit of a scene with Sanska in the bathroom about to cut his veins, about to kill himself, and he's immediately stopped by at least 2 or 3 nuns. So after that, we have this scene with the Pope. His name is Lenny, and he's speaking. He's pretty much getting reacquainted. He's getting acquainted to his new, title as a Pope, whatever. He's meeting his security guards, all that stuff. And there's one guy whose name I forgot his name, but no, his name is Domino, and I think some of the lines of how Domino means belongs to God. And Lenny says, "Well, if we're gonna use layman's terms, that means you belong to me." And Lenny pretty much lets the law be known. You could tell, especially from this scene, that Lenny is someone to be dealt with. He ain't gonna be a push. He's not gonna be a pushover. He's the real deal. So he's introduced to his cook, who is an elderly nun, and she's a little bit too friendly with him, kissing him, whatever, kind of smack him on the face a bit, as if he's a child, And his guard, Domino, is like, you know what, excuse her for her quaintness. She did missionaries back in India. That's her personality. And before she walks away, Elaine's like, no, 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 no. She has to know her place. Listen, friendly relations leads to confusion, rumors, and all that. But formal relationships, they're as clear and as solid as stone. There can be no rumors added to that. It's see what you get. It's honest. We're not on friendly terms. We're going to be on a formal term, okay? I'm the Pope. I'm not your kid. Now, do we make myself clear? And a tear comes to her eye. I'm like, damn, vicious. And he said, and by the way, I still want my goddamn cherry Coke and cereal. Nothing more, nothing less. So we have this next scene when we see Viola speaking with the confessor. Like like in the church, when it comes to Catholicism, you have someone who you go to confess your sins. But Viola is on his iPhone. He doesn't really have time for this. And the confessor's like, listen, dude, why'd you come here if you're not going to confess any sins? And Viola said, listen, the only sin that I have is that Venus statue that's from the Paleolithic era that's 25,000 years old. All I care about is finance and high diplomacy. After that, we see him speaking with what seems to be his right hand man, Federico, and he asked for Federico. He's like, "How many books have been written about me, or I've written?" And Federico's like, 16. He's like, "Wrong, 17." And he talks about how how like a left wing woman's gonna be writing it, and Federico's like, is that really such a good thing? You know how they're all full of controversy. He's like, it doesn't matter. Controversy sells, and it's good. It's good for me either way. That's the way he looks at it. And one of the other security people for Lenny, aka the Pope, he comes in. He tells Viola that the Pope is gonna be a little late, and Viola asks him, pretty much, what kind of man is this new Pope? And Valance says he's someone of very little appetite. Very little appetite. So the way I saw this was he's pretty much letting Viola know that this dude is damn near almost incorruptible. Like I said before, he's a real deal. It's going to be hard for you to try to control him like a puppet. So after that, we have this scene with Lenny waiting for someone to come off this airplane. And we see this older woman who's played by Diane, God, I forgot her name, but a famous actress. I remember she played Michael Corleone's wife in The Godfather and Godfather 2 and Godfather 3. But yeah, so while before they sort of embrace each other, we see a flashback. We see younger Lenny. He's about 7 years old, and we see him and her meet. Obviously, it's her when she's younger. I would say probably good 20, 25 years before the current time frame. But he says, "Ma," like "Ma." She's like, "You won't call me that. My name is Mother Mary, I think." So yeah, so obviously that's his mother. And there's some smoke pipe that his father gave to him, and she asks him, could she take it and hold on to it? And he's like, nah, that's my father didn't want no one to take it. He left it specifically in my hands. So they go into wherever they went to, and come back to the current time frame, and Lenny and her embrace, and it's obvious that she's proud of her son, and she refers to him, as Pope, whatever. So he tells her about this new apartment, and she's gonna be living there along with him, I believe. And we see him have probably the only moment in this episode, a moment of weakness, and she tells him straight up, "Listen, Lenny, I cried with you over all the tragic stuff that's happened to you over your life, but this is a time for that. You are the Pope. You're the leader of 1 billion Christian followers. That's a fifth of the population. You can no longer be essentially a human. You have to be God on earth, both the representation and also through action." So I thought that was a really powerful scene. And then we have a scene later with Lenny talking to the Vatican confessor, essentially, and he pretty much tells him, "Listen, I'm gonna need you to, when whoever comes in here, officials, whatever, people of importance, tell me everything they say, because this is vital to the survival of my reign and future reigns in general." So after that, we see Lenny speaking with Viola, and it was a very great scene. Viola's trying to be the string master. He's trying to maintain his power, and it's kind of because they're both weighing each other out. And you can tell Lenny feels as though this guy's full of crap. And he pretty much tells the guy, "Listen, you're no longer gonna be what you were with the other popes, second command, running everything. No, no, no. That's not how it's gonna go. My advisor is gonna be Sister Mary, and she's gonna be important because she's gonna be the one watching you." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You know what? I wish I have someone else watch me." And Lenny's like, no. You know why? Because I'm the Pope. I tell you, in this life, it may be in another life you can have someone tell you who to watch you, but I'm the Pope. You know what I mean? I tell you who watches you. Consider her your guardian angel." And I just loved the line. It was so great acting on both parts. And I believe there was another thing he mentioned about how he wanted his radio fixed for one due to the Lobby transmission, and how there was some type of Catholic tiara or something that the United States had that he wanted brought back here to the Vatican. He thought it was stupid for it to go to the United States in the first place. But yeah, so after that scene, he meets the prefect, and they have this interesting scene where they're looking at the statue of Mary and Jesus, with Mary holding Jesus in her arms right after his crucifixion. And and Lenny says, "Isn't it ironic how this is how it all begins and how it ends? The son in the mother's arms." And he asks the prefect how long he'd been working here. He says, and the prefect says, "I've been working here so long, I forgot to count." And they talk about the rumors and how so much rumors happen over in the Vatican, and how sometimes the rumors hit before, something. Oh God, so much things happen. But essentially, lots of rumors happen. And Lenny says, in America we call that gossip. And he says to the prefect that he appreciates the fact that he was able to get everyone out of the basilica, the tourists and whatnot, because Lenny also says that he will never get over his aversion towards terrorists, and the prefect asks him why. And Lenny's like, because they're just passing through. And I was just saying, once again, just really great acting, and just wondering, what does that mean? Because definitely there's something that happened to Lenny that connects, that connects to every word. You know what I mean? Every word has a meaning. So he also mentions to prefect that his mind is a gap, and that everything that happens, he will always know ahead of schedule. So he's pretty much letting the prefect know, I will always be I will always be on my toes. I will always be aware. I will never slack. And he sort of says the same thing to the confessor guy near the end of the episode, when he pretty much demands him to tell him everything that's been said about him. And the guy says they think he's young, inexperienced, kind of laughing at him. And Lenny looks at him with a death-like stare and says, did you laugh? And he was like, well, a little bit, because I thought it was funny at the time. And they had this conversation, and Lenny says, I have a confession to make to you. I do not believe in God. And the confessor's reaction was priceless. It went from shock to just utter disgust, like, you. And then Lenny says, I'm only joking. And the guy's like, oh, I knew you were joking. And then when you see his face, you're like, I don't think he was joking. I think he was serious. In the final two episodes, you have Iolo pretty much telling Frederico, listen, we need to find out the connection between Lenny, aka the young Pope, and Mother Mary. Find out what's the real connection, because him wanting her to be his special advisor and her watching with me, something doesn't seem right. We have to find out everything about him and all that stuff. And then he even goes into more to philosophy, saying, what the problem with people is? They want to get power. They rebel. They want power, but they don't really know what true power is. And true power is knowing. It's not just having knowledge, but having knowledge before everyone else and how to utilize it. And that's essentially where the episode ends. Great episode. Great first episode of The Young Pope. There may be a few things that I missed. If I did, I hope you guys just write it down in the comments, because I love to talk to you guys. If you guys can, rate my video, subscribe my channel. Like I said before, write some comments down below. This was an awesome episode. I can tell I'm already going to enjoy the rest of season 1. Thank you guys for watching. Adios.